Hi, everybody. Obviously, I'm not Keilah. Um, but
Obviously, we're using StreamYard.
yes, we're using StreamYard in case you guys didn't know. But I was standing in because she's having some bad weather, and obviously, we want her to stay safe. So, today on the show, we have Misha. That goes by Awakened Through the Looking Glass, I believe.
Yeah, awakened by the looking glass reflection. So much meaning behind that name, by the way.
Oh, really? Is it, I mean, do you feel comfortable sharing how you made your screen name?
Well, it's first of all, I've always been a fan of Alice. Always. In fact, I even named my youngest daughter Alice Ann Wonderland.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
Thank you. um, I've just always liked the impossibilities. The never, nothing is completely impossible if you just don't, if you believe you can do something. The reflections, I've always had the looking in the mirror and seeing somebody that I'm not.
I see.
And so, yeah. And then there's some other, some would call woo woo issues with it. Yeah, there's just a lot to it. And it's
That makes
really
sense.
long.
No, that makes sense. But yeah, I could totally relate to the sometimes looking in the mirror and not really like knowing who you are or like where you're going.
Yeah. Which
But
one I
I
am today.
say I love Alice, and when they did the new Alice movie with Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter,
Mhm.
I had like some very interesting fan fiction that I wrote. I'm just gonna say that. I was like,
Oh,
I know the Mad Hatter's probably not the character to crush on, but Johnny
you
Depp.
know,
That's all I
Johnny
gotta
is
say.
Johnny. I mean, yeah, that's all you got to say is it's Johnny Depp. I mean, we share the same birthday. So I feel like I got a
Oh,
little bit
really?
to
That's
him.
awesome.
Yeah. I got a little bit of relationship in that way. But no,
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes sense.
he does an amazing job there too. I have to say, I have to breathe for a second because sometimes when things don't work the way that we plan, I like kind of
Oh,
stand back outside of myself, if that even makes sense. And it just kind
yes.
of, it puts me in a different way. And so sometimes the best thing to do, which I even on one of my lives, my most recent live, I think, I lost everything right there live for everybody to see, to hear.
Oh,
And I was
man.
like, "Oh, I just got to
I
breathe."
get you. Same. I put my my calming crystal necklace on.
Yeah.
So I was like,
It's
there's got to be
find
it's
your
really funny. It
tools.
turned out to be such a simple thing that I didn't do, right? That fixed the
It
problem,
always is.
isn't it? That's how it
It
always
always
works.
is, though. Man, Microsoft will update, and I'm scared every time I see it because it's like, what's going to happen this time? And then I will go on this rabbit
Right?
trail trying to fix everything, and then come to find out it was just, a flaw. But there was something wrong with their system. It's like, Lord.
Yeah. Right? I feel like a lot of programs are like, we're so intuitive. You could figure it out if you were 5 years old. And I'm like, well, I'm
I hate that.
34 and I need a manual.
You
Um,
know, Even with the manual, I still can't figure this out. What's going on? I think it's on purpose. A little bit of conspiracy there. I think it's on purpose sometimes. A little bit of
yeah,
on
and I
there.
thought, maybe it was that I needed to like I need to learn StreamYard at some point.
No,
So
you don't.
maybe having the frustration with like a really cool audience who's really supportive is like
Incredible,
like
amazing.
the incredible way to do it because everybody here, including Keilah was like, "Oh, let me
Stream
pop in
out in
and
the
see what's
rain.
going on, and like, here's what you need to do to make it work." And I was like, "Oh, that was so simple once I figured it." Like when she kind of said what to do.
It's
So
good though when it's simple too because you can be like, fix it and forget it. You know.
exactly. Yeah, and I'm so excited to see people in the chat. Thanks for coming,
Yeah.
Ted. Good to see you, Barbie, Brian, all as always. T, love it when T pops in.
She has
She's
been here since before even 8 o'clock started.
Oh my
She
God,
was
she's
here.
from the future. Did you know?
Yeah, I love
The
that.
future.
We get to be time travelers now. Who would have thought? Who'd have
I
thunk it?
right? So cool. Um, so I know that a little bit that you talked on Kim's show about
Mhm.
your village channel that you were making.
Yeah.
But since we're about mental health here, like, do you want to talk a little bit about like what inspired you to start the channel or like what's the like the goal that you have with it?
Tons of reasons to start it. me being adopted, which I think we talked about a little bit yesterday in the live.
In
And
the live yesterday.
yeah, I'm adopted. I was adopted at birth. So much there, and it has followed me my entire life. There have been issues that have stemmed from that. It was a good adoption for the most part. I thought I lived in fairy tale land until 17 years old. Everything kind of crushed, and I lost everything I knew, everything I was. My entire reality completely shifted.
Oh
My
man.
dad, I was never allowed to like spend the night anywhere except for my cousins, and I never like prom. My curfew was 11 o'clock at night. I wasn't allowed to wear high heels. I was very sheltered. I had a job,
Oh man.
finally got to be myself. And gosh, I worked at Pizza Hut and at the grocery store, both full time jobs plus going to school because I was a workaholic. I loved it and I was being me. I was finding who I was.
You know what? I think I don't know if it's with adoption specifically, but there is sort of like this common thread for people to be either like perfectionists or
Oh,
to
yeah.
be like workaholics that have been adopted or like find where where your puzzle piece fits.
Hmm. Oh, it's funny you
Um,
say puzzle piece. We'll come
why is
back to
that?
that. We'll come back to that, but that's funny that you say
But
that.
I would say, like I say all the time, like um I don't know if I have like undiagnosed ADHD or something, but I'll get into these obsessive research bouts on topics for like a year or two
Yes.
years where I'm just like, I need to know everything about cheese. And then
Hmm.
I'll like learn it. And then I'll be like, cheese is boring. I need a new topic. And that's
Yes.
kind of what I thought this would be when I found the Scientology stuff. I thought I was just going to watch like two documentaries, read some books, and then I'd be like, oh, checklist, new
Right.
topic. And then I like ran into, obviously the second gens channels. And then when I heard that people were actually protesting, I was like, wait, what? Like I could be part of something that's happening now.
Right.
And the people I met through that, it was kind of sad in some ways because there's some topics that I'm sad that we relate on because it means we went through similar trauma.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's kind of comforting to meet all these people who are like passionate about mental health and like
Yes.
supporting friends and making like authentic connections.
It is such an amazing, beautiful thing. And I don't think some people really get that whenever we are so passionate about making the connections. Um, I personally have felt like I didn't belong, like I was a square peg in the round hole my entire life. I've,
That's a really good way to put it. So it wasn't like that meme with the toy where it's like, which hole do you put it in? The square hole. You're like,
right.
no, I feel like a square trying to go in a circle.
Yeah. Big time. I've got to be different on everything. And I take pride in that, really. I mean, I am, and this is very vain, but I am very proud of myself. I enjoy my own company. I never understood why other people didn't like me, why I wasn't accepted. And it was, being given up without the understanding of why. I've always felt like I was never good enough.
Oh, so you don't know your story then with with
Mm-mm.
why you were adopted?
The only thing that I know, I'm so glad we're talking about this, by the way. I
Yeah,
really am, because it's
me
something that
too.
needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that we're different there. My family never hid it from me. They always said, we're so glad you're adopted, and they just kind of waited for me to ask who my birth parents were, because they thought if I asked, then I was ready to know.
that
But they
is
never
beautiful.
like hid it from me. You know what I mean?
Well, it was weird because mine didn't ever hide it from me, but it was like, and I've said this a lot, so I know people probably get tired of hearing it, but we would have parties because they were the golf course people, the big parties and the hoity toity people. And I would be all
Yeah.
dressed up in like these noisy, uncomfortable dresses and like Shirley Temple almost. And they would all gather around and say, Misha, what does adoption mean? And I would get this smile on my face and I would curtsy and I would say, adoption means love. Like I was a
Oh,
parlor trick,
that's.
like
I'm so sorry that happened. That's awful.
I didn't realize it, how badly that had affected me until, obviously I'm 50 almost now, and just really started realizing it a couple of years ago whenever everything happened, and I've started doing a lot of inward reflections. But yeah, that really, that was something. And then whenever I was 17, my mom passed away.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of a parallel for me as I knew my birth parents, mainly because my birth grandfather stayed in touch with my mom. Like the whole adoption process kind of weirdly brought my birth father's family closer with my parents
That's
because
amazing.
so my adopted mother is my birth mother's sister.
I didn't. I
So,
remembered you saying that last night.
yeah,
That
and so
that's so helpful. I think.
but when I was 18, my birth father passed away, and I feel like that sent me into a spiral, like you were saying, of like, who am I? Like when I look in the mirror, like, am I like my dad?
Hmm.
Whereas people who grow up with uh their biological parents, they can look at them and be like, this is where I get this from.
Yeah,
Like
there's a term, I can't think of what it's
even
called.
neuroses, like even my dad passed a little bit of OCD and workaholism down to my sister.
Yeah.
Like she has that my dad has this thing where we tell him things start like an hour to 2 hours early because he'll like do one more thing, but then he'll forget that he locked the house and want to reverse halfway to the destination where like you locked it. You locked the house and you checked it twice. We're good.
That's a
And
hard
my
one though.
sister texted me and she was like, "You know what I did today before I took the kids to soccer?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "I was halfway there and almost turned around to make sure I locked the house."
It's a scary feeling.
and I'm
You
like,
know,
and
they
I'm like,
joke about it, like the iron, leaving the iron on, which people don't iron
yeah, but I
really
mean,
anymore. But
it was more of the. I'm like, well, that makes sense. You're his daughter. Like, it
right,
makes sense that you would kind of absorb something similar in your like worries or like thought patterns.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it would be genetic makeup, but also just experience through living and seeing it. My kids. That's the thing that people I try to preach a lot about is the fact that it's not only affecting the adoptee, but it affects their children because all the effects that we have dealt with has been passed on, and they've had to the same thing. Like they don't have their medical history to give when they go to the doctor, and so they have to feel that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's a big thing. And like, okay, trigger warning to sensitive people who don't like to talk about dogs like fur children, but it's the
my fur babes,
only,
that's what I call them. Yep.
yeah, it's the only like direct parallel I could think of in the moment is if you get a dog from a rescue
Hmm.
and they
Just
tell
did.
you like don't touch their feet, right?
Hmm.
Like this dog is going to need extra time to acclimate and trust you and get comfortable in your home. And then people expect that to only take 2 weeks. And when
Right.
they're like, he's still biting me, it's like, yes, because they need like 6 months. They need like
Yeah.
3 to 6 months to understand that you're not going to do that with them. And I feel like the same way with um, like adopted kids who went through trauma. It's like, I wish there was like a practice out there for therapy that focused
Yes.
holistically on the family because it's not just oh, we adopted this child, it's like, okay, well, now you brought a child of any age, but especially over 4. Like if 4 and above rarely get adopted because they have a personality
That's right.
already.
Hmm.
But it's like you're bringing a child who already feels worthless
Yep.
into your home where maybe you have other children and they're going to test you. They're going to feel like, okay, I'm going to do this to
And
see
regular, normal.
if they'll still love me, I'm gonna test the boundary. And a lot of people aren't prepared for that, and I feel like that's a big thing. I wish that there was like family counseling for adoptions that went
There
beyond
so needs to
like
be.
the court case, beyond like the background check that they do.
Well, and even if they really do that, because a lot of them, like especially back in the 70s, whenever I was born, it was almost like a trade, like a baby trade, like it was a business, like the black market. You
No, it
could, if,
was. Yeah,
yeah,
it's scary. There's this documentary on Peacock, I want to say, and I'm now forgetting the doctor's name, but essentially this guy, these poor women, these women would come to him and be like, I don't want an abortion. I want to have this baby. But
Mhm.
I don't want people to know because, it's out of wedlock or for whatever reason. And so he would like deliver their babies, but then tell them that they died.
Yes.
And then he would go to the back alley and like give them to a different couple.
It's horrible.
And these women, for years, these women were like, I heard the baby crying. Like, I can't be crazy. And the reason that this whole case blew open is that these children needed their medical histories. It comes back to your medical history point.
Yep.
And they researched where they came from, and they only got as far as that doctor. Because I mean, he's not going to keep the records of these women's names, right? Like
Right.
he back alley sold their babies basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the parents who adopted these kids were scarred from the revelation because they thought they were, like, some of them actually thought it was legitimate. Do you know what I
Complete
mean?
mind
Like, I
fest,
don't
because
think like, yeah,
their inner voice is telling them, my baby is out there. I need to protect my baby, and yet you're told that they didn't make it, and
yeah,
that alone messes with a person. And so I could just imagine
oh yeah,
compounding it with the fact that you heard the baby or you just felt the baby. Your intuition is so right in so many things, and they're fighting everything within them.
yeah,
And
and
that's
it's
kind
like
of
the
like us as
question
adoptees.
of, yeah, and then when you hear people talk about like your other friends, like I've heard people say like, oh, I wish my parents were dead, or I hate my
Oh, it
parents.
hurts.
And in some cases, like my best friend's parents shouldn't have been parents, but I know them very closely to say that.
Mhm.
But when people say that, I'm like, as someone who's lost both of
Yeah.
my birth parents, like,
Yes.
don't say you wish they were dead, because whatever you have to work through that makes you that angry to say that, like, the loss that you'll feel when you actually lose a parent is not describable.
Yep.
Um,
The never being able to, like, the little things like graduation, she's
your
not
wedding,
there.
like if you get married,
Wedding,
you,
babies,
your first, you have what would have been their first grandchild.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not knowing anything. I mean, I had to change a baby doll's diaper whenever I had my first daughter because I'd never held a baby. I'd never been around one. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no family, no support. And circle back to the village. I didn't know anything. I had no clue. I just could go off of what I knew. I
yeah,
had an alcoholic, drug addicted husband who was, if you could call him husband, I mean, it was just a nightmare that I was dealing with on that. And then
yeah,
on top of that, I was still missing my mother because it was only like a year beforehand that I'd lost her.
mm-hmm.
And then I had straight in a row 3 babies, no clue how to do it, no support, nobody to call up and say, hey, mom, she's running 100-degree temperature and she's doing this. What do I do? And so then you go and you take them to the doctors, and the doctor says, you've got to stop bringing them in here. They're going to have issues. You can't keep bringing them for every little thing. And so you're questioning that. It
Yeah,
takes a village to raise a baby. And I
or
raised 3
even
without.
or even just to support an individual person.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes if I haven't seen someone in a long time, like more than 2 years, and they're like, what happened in the last 3 or 4? I'm like, okay, do you want the condensed trauma-free version? Or
Right.
do you want to know like the harder stuff I went through? Because I feel like I wouldn't be as strong as I am about the
Exactly.
things I've been through if I didn't have my friends, or like even if I didn't. So I honestly think that people do come into your life for a reason, for a
Yep.
season, or for your lifetime. And you learn lessons from those experiences that make you a better person or help you connect better to others.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody right now is seeking community
Yep.
because there's so much work being done overtly. It's not even covert anymore. There's
Exactly.
people being
Yes.
like, there's people that think I should hate you because I'm 30 and you're in your 50s and we're in
Mm-hmm.
different generations. And like, how could we ever have anything in common?
Instead of the alternate to that is, I have experience from my life. you have experience from your life, and we can come together and make that even more experience.
Exactly. Or like, for example, I think I saw Paige back in the chat who also said she was adopted.
Hmm.
And I
I think there's a
feel
lot of
like,
us in this community that actually are, that I've found from like going through the different chats.
isn't that funny? I
It
feel
is.
like adopted people, and I want to say loosely, I guess, people with trauma kind of like find each other. And I think it's when you're ready to work through a question or something that you've been through, the universe gives you that chance, but it is scary. It was kind of scary to like reach out to Keilah for the first time and be like, "Hey, can I originally when um Gretchen was still here, I had reached out to them to be like, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you guys about my uh abusive like my DV experience or whatever it is." And I think it's wonderful that so many people see the compassion that we all have.
Yes.
Like everybody who's in the chat right now, even people who's I might not recognize, I think it's amazing that they come to support, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, your birth mother was also adopted. Wow,
Wow.
um that's
That's something in itself, isn't it?
that's something, Paige. That really is interesting. So your birth mother was adopted, but then adopted you, so you both have different moms. That's really interesting.
See, that is something that, because personally, if I were not able to have my children, I, I'm sorry, I struggle with, would I have adopted, or if my children wanted to have children and couldn't, would I be able to handle that, or would I tell them to think about it? How would I handle that? Because I personally have been hurt in so many ways because of it. But it's not the adoption itself. The adoption itself is a beautiful thing. It is somebody that would love to bring in somebody into their home and to take care of them and to have a family with. That is beautiful.
Yeah. I
But it is the
think
system that is so messed up.
I think what I've come to understand too is I think even if a birth mother wants to be um, it wants it to be a closed adoption where
Hmm.
you don't know their name, like you redact the name from the record. I think it's incredibly important to advocate for the medical records not being redacted.
Yep.
And also too, like there are people out there, trigger warning, that are bad people and
Yes.
that they're only in the system to abuse it for the money and they don't care about these children. And I think what I would say is if IVF or surrogacy or something isn't an option, which are all other options if you can't physically have your own kids, as long as you educate yourself and mentally prepare for the adoption process, because
Hmm.
unfortunately, this is a really blunt way of saying it. Um, oh, like our mod Aria? Sorry, I just saw Paige's comment.
Oh, wow.
I was
Oh, wow.
trying to figure out if she means our mod Aria. That would so interesting.
Wow.
And see that connection. I think it's incredibly brave of birth parents to either connect through um, a facilitator. Oh,
Hmm.
wow, Paige.
That is awesome.
That's so awesome. So you were obviously able to find her. Was that just by happenstance online, or was that like a process that you went through to actually locate her? And you don't have to answer. It's an incredibly small world.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's incredibly brave, even if they're going through a facilitator, like, they pass the letter and then the facilitator gives it to the child so they're not actually physically face to face. Because I think most of the time, people who give up their babies for adoption aren't doing it. Like, there's this stigma that it's like selfish.
Hmm.
but I think it's like the greatest act of love. And I'm
It
lucky
can
I
be, yeah.
knew like
I
my
agree.
birth mother's story was her and my birth father had my birth sister in 1989. And my mom was struggling at that time with postpartum psychosis and schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
And they were also living in a sublet, like someone was going to sell their house but rented it out to them. And then I was kind of a surprise baby. Like I was unplanned, but I also came like a month early.
Oh, wow.
But that's because when she was pregnant and like in the late stages of pregnancy, they were forced to move when, she
So much
probably
stress.
shouldn't have been lifting boxes and
Yeah.
having that stress on her. So knowing that she asked my mom to adopt me, it what that spoke to me of was she knew at that time that she was not capable of taking care of me.
Yeah.
And that must be such a painful insight to
My
have
goodness, yeah.
to have because she loved her children,
Being a
you
mother
know?
is the most incredible thing in the world. And so to be willing to give up that to give to somebody else because you don't feel like you can, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'm working on I have to ask my half brother if he's okay with me telling his story as part of mine. But essentially my birth mom had I think 3 different people in her life at different stages. So like, my half siblings are 7 to 8 years older than I am.
Oh, wow.
But she like her first husband was abusive and she fled with the kids, but she couldn't take care of them on her own, so the state took them into closed adoptions.
And that's a scary thing.
And the only reason I met them was because my half sister was like 7 when this happened, when they were taken to foster care. And she remembered having a brother, but she didn't know where he was. So she hired a private investigator. Hi,
Wow.
Carrie Ann. Good to see you.
Janet.
And Tiff is saying and I think it's incredibly brave to be a foster parent as well,
Oh,
because
yeah, because
the
they get the
system
double
is
duty.
is so heart-wrenching. It's like you bring these kids into your home and then this is going to be controversial, but it's my firm opinion that the system should take cases case by case and not force reconciliation in every single case, because there's cases where people have been given back 5 or 6 times and then
Yeah.
taken a seventh or eighth time, and it's like, okay, clearly
There were signs. There had to have been signs.
there were signs, and yeah, and like I'm not a parent, so I had an open adoption. I had once a year visits with my birth
Oh,
parents. Oh, yeah,
see,
and see,
that's
that's
amazing.
amazing.
It's different whenever you look around and you're paraded around every family get together, every holiday, everything, and everybody looks the same, but you don't. And then being told to just get over it because it's just this is your family. This is these are they love you, but nobody ever letting me feel my feelings or question them or understand them. Um, so it creates a lot of things, I think, fantasies in my mind that I created because of that, because I couldn't ask with outwards, so I had to ask within.
Yeah, and like Kate D was saying, she worked with girls, like teenagers who were pregnant and went the adoption route. And you know what? I think that's so important
That would
because
be
it
great. Yeah.
lets the voice come from the mom.
Yeah.
And I think so many times that's so important because so many kids feel that it was their fault,
Yep.
but you were like an infant. So, like logically, it
Yeah.
literally
How
could
could it
not
be our
have
fault?
couldn't
Right.
have been your. But kids do this with divorces too. They put the blame on
Mhm.
themselves and not
Right.
understanding like the nuance of and complications of being an adult or why they would do that. And I think it's incredibly amazing that Kate was working with pregnant teens because I feel like that's so stigmatized too. Like
And
getting pregnant as a teenager and those shows that kind
oh
of
yeah.
glorified it.
Mhm.
Teen Mom just bothers me on so many levels.
Yep.
So many levels, but it's like so scary to go through that and feel like you don't have support, and
And that is it right there too.
to be able to
That's
guide these girls and let them know like this decision of putting your baby up for adoption is okay. It doesn't make you a bad person.
right.
Because I think there's like this stigma that, oh, they gave up the kid, so they must be a bad person.
I'm gonna just put this out there. And this is gonna sound kind of harsh. This is my reality and my truth though, and I don't mean it harsh. This is just where I have been with my life and my story, nobody else's. Personally, I have never been able to, I have tried to forgive my birth mother, but I've never been able to. I have searched
Yeah.
for her, I have found her. Um, but when I reached out, there was nothing. It was just silence. And
Yeah.
whenever I lost Christina, my daughter, I messaged her again and silence. And I'm like, this is about your grandchild. I thought surely,
Yeah.
and nothing. And all the information, all the pictures that I have, everything, my family history is just from what I found online. And I've
Yeah.
always felt like I was the scarlet letter of the family. And I carried around, you know, whatever it was that she was trying to hide. I feel like that was given to me. And then I was just thrown away. And this is me and mine. So please understand,
Ego.
I'm
Yeah,
not trying to
for
say
sure.
anything towards, because this is just how my mind, as children, we as adults expect children to be so intelligent and mature, but we ourselves can't be sometimes. And so to have a child's thinking, it's hard to change that unless you've been able to work through it. So there is that on
Yeah.
my feelings towards my bio mom. I have come up with mine with ideas like it was a secret bloodline and we're part of the Illuminati or some kind of, one of the 12 bloodlines, and they had to hide me away, and, that kind of thing. There's so
Yeah.
much. And it's like, am I special because of that, or am I a throwaway person because of that? And dealing with the duality of that. Then
That's
a
really tough.
couple,
And even
yeah,
even like you were saying, like the mom who adopted you died when you were 17, or
yeah, and
your
it was thrown in my
yeah.
face. It
And
was, she always told me whenever I turned 18 years old that I would find out. She passed. It was a month before prom, 2 months before graduation. Or no, I'm sorry. It was a week before prom, a month before graduation, 2 months before I turned 18. And my daddy always said after the fact that it was in his will. I would find out in his will. And so when my daddy passed, there was no will. And so all these people control my life and my secrets and my everything. And I have no say in
yeah,
it. None.
and
Because
that's really painful.
I have to go before a judge and get it approved. And they're not approving in Oklahoma like they do in many states. Most states have gotten really good about doing it. But it shouldn't be at their discretion. This is my history. I shouldn't be a government secret. And this is all the system, the way that they did it. You know,
Yeah.
it's really hard in so many ways, but it's also given me a wonderful, entertaining mind because I have so many different creative thoughts that it could be. That's cool. But when you're really
Yeah.
trying to get to the bread and butter of the thing, it sucks. And everybody, I've been Ella Enchanted my entire life. I have to please people because I don't want to disappoint them and then throw me away. And it
Well,
has become really, the fawning.
yeah.
It's hard because I see people and I want them to know, I want them to see the beauty that I see in them because I try to see everything beautiful and not the negative.
Yeah. And Tiff, Nico said they're holding space for you, and Tiff said they hate that you feel like you're disposable.
Thank you guys. I do
And I
too.
just want to
And
say,
it's
like,
it's
I
okay.
know this could sound fake, but it's not. Like, um, once I kind of befriend people, in my mind, it's this unspoken thing, like,
Yeah.
you're in your mind forever now.
Yeah. You're stuck with me.
Exactly. And I think, and I spend my life trying to help people see that they are worth it,
Yes.
because I was heavily bullied. So the age difference between me and my adopted sibling is 8 years as well. So my parents were in their 50s when I was a teenager.
That's
So
how
my
my
sister
parents, they
turned
were older.
18, I was going through puberty, and my mom was going through menopause, and my dad was going through his midlife crisis.
Yep.
And
We have so much in common,
it,
girl. We have
it
so much in
gave me
common.
this
So much.
right? It gave me this perception that adults' problems were more serious than mine. So it didn't matter that I
Ah.
was being like shoved into lockers or tripped in the
Oh,
hallway or like treated like crap at school, because clearly like my parents' problems were like were worse than
oh.
mine. And this was never anything they did. By the
You put
way,
it on yourself because you didn't want to.
they tried to put me in therapy because they were doing a lot of work behind the scenes with the school to decide, like, for eighth grade, should we transfer them to a different school or should we wait because they'll graduate into a large high school, and by the time that huge class graduates, the bullies, like, I'll be so far away from my bullies that like they can't bully me anymore.
Right.
But in my mind, it's given me this feeling of like I have to remind myself that my struggles are like actually struggles.
Yeah.
Because I tend to brush them off like, oh, whatever, I had cancer and I went through surgery and it's fine. And people are like, I wouldn't be fine.
I heard
Like,
you last night say that you went back to work the week after a really
2 weeks after,
horrible
yeah,
accident.
oh yeah, the T-bone car accident where, and this is just my brain, it goes, I can't miss work because I was in a car accident.
Yeah, I mean,
I
and
mean,
that's
I literally could legally though. That's the thing,
yeah,
is like it's not a logical thought. And I
because
just
we
want to
put
go
ourselves
back
back,
really
and so
quick
I
to
can see
say
that.
like um I just want to say that it's not a mark on you that your birth mom didn't want to connect or that you're not a worth it person. But I just want to like hold space for the pain a little bit of trying to reach out to her when you lost your own daughter and her not responding, because I think that says more about her than it does about you. Is that she
Yeah,
could be
it was
like
hard.
so like uncaring for you in that moment. Um
It's
because I
hard
mean
too
you've
because
talked
I
about
don't
your
understand
daughter
as much as I
as
feel,
well. So
as much as I hurt, as much as the things that I think as far as family. I don't understand how I could come from somebody that wouldn't go crazy over it. But I don't know her story, and so I've given so much grace, and I've tried, and I've accepted, and I've forgiven, and I've this and that, and then I go through another round of it. It goes in waves, and then I get angry again, and I get frustrated because there's no conclusion. There's no any way to actually just resolve it. And I think if I were to do that somehow, it would help. But I tell you, because of our villages that we are building, I have worked through a lot of it, and that's an incredible thing because I've spoken since then with people that have had to go through the adoption process on the opposite end, as far as being adopted mothers. Um,
yeah, it's
and I've gotten to see their
incredibly
stories.
nuanced. Hi Body Illusion, good to see you. Um
It's so good to see all you guys. And I'm not.
oh,
I
Beth
want to preface.
Snyder.
I'm not good
asking,
about chat. I'm horrible about the focusing. I'm really,
No,
really
it's
bad.
okay. I'm actually really glad Red popped in because I was trying to like star comments and listen to you at the same time.
It's hard.
And then I
It's
was
like
about to
focus
start
mission.
one and then Red put it on the screen and I'm like, oh, she heard my
Awesome.
mind ping.
Yes,
It looks like Beth wants to reach out to you. So if you do you
I
want
would
us
love
to
that. I would
maybe,
love that. Yeah.
is your email on your channel?
It is. There's several ways to get a hold of me. If you are Facebook, I can give that. Also, I threw some links up in our chat here. Also, and so don't
Oh,
let me
in the
sidetrack and
chat
forget
of
that.
the live stream chat or
Yeah, for the StreamYard.
oh, for the StreamYard?
Yeah,
Nice.
but
I
I
was
can put
also
it in
grabbing
there.
some stuff.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, but definitely we can facilitate that. Oh, were you adopted too, Beth? Or, I mean, not to, if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. I just, oh, Beth is your cousin? Wow.
Wow. Oh my
We're getting
goodness.
so many family
That's
connections. That's
awesome.
amazing. Welcome, cousin Beth. Um, oh, here we go.
There's my
Piff
Facebook if you want to put that
says,
in.
um, Yeah, I just didn't want to do that without your permission.
Yes, I appreciate that.
I'm not about the doxing life.
I really appreciate
Um,
that. I'm an open book, and I think partially that is due to the adoption as well, because I want everything to be out there, and that way there's no surprises, there's no hiding, and it's good, bad, and the ugly, and there's a lot of ugly. But if you want to come see me because you're my family, I want you to know about it, and that way you are accepting me, and that's kind of counterintuitive in a way,
yeah.
because they haven't. But something interesting. I had Christina Ray, and I spell her middle name R-A apostrophe E. I found out not long after having her that my bio mom's name is Janet Ray, R-A apostrophe E. And I have a bio sister,
Oh,
and
wow.
her name is Christina.
That's universe coming through with
Isn't
a
that
message.
something?
That is the universe touching your life. I really believe that. Like, there's no way you could have known that.
There's no way. No way at all.
Wow, I got
Yeah.
chills. Hi,
Yeah.
Shannon. Good to see you. Tiff
It's so
says,
good to see all you guys.
Misha, something to keep in mind. You must be a stronger woman than the woman you are looking to for answers. I think we forget that sometimes.
Tiff, thank you. Thank you. And
Isn't
I
that?
still I think that she's strong. She had to have been strong to be able to withstand not saying hi or something to me. Whatever it is that she's holding back, or whatever scarlet letter I am, it's something that I've kind of come to terms on, that it
Or
must be
what
protected.
about this perspective? What if it was her being afraid for your protection?
Yeah, that's exactly. And that goes
And
along
not
with
that
the
she's ashamed of you or that she didn't want you, but that she didn't trust the people
whatever
in
was
her
going on.
life or
Hmm.
whatever the world was at that point, and she thought maybe just doing the cut would keep you the safest.
And I truly had been down that line of thinking for so, so long. They cannot find my father at all, which is weird, because they were trying to do the intake to get me on one of those Find Your Father, reality TV shows. And they had done all the
Right.
interviews, they'd done all the everything, and everything set up, and I was good to go, but they could not find him. And my daughter actually said to me recently, she says, "Why don't you ever ask that? Mom, you talk about her, but you never wonder about him." And it's a very good point. Why don't
And I
I?
wonder too if, like, knowing what I know about my birth mom's life and some parallels that I had in my own, I kind of broke a cycle.
Mm,
Like both me and my birth mom had our differing mental health issues, but it was due to the time she was in that she couldn't get understanding and compassion for her treatment. But for me, I was always aware that mental health was in our family.
yeah. And
And
oh, because it's so
yeah,
taboo. It was
and
so
I
taboo
thought,
for so long.
I knew from my birth father's side that MS could be in my family. I knew that certain conditions were. So when I was a teenager, I would deep dive medical stuff like the signs of XYZ and like when does this usually pop up for people? Because I was like, if I can be logically prepared, then I can deal with the emotions later. And that's kind of my defense mechanism. Because in a lot of ways, I think um
Sorry about that.
yeah, well, we can let's see, we put your
Oh, wow.
Facebook in there. I don't know if do
I
you
gave
have your email?
Facebook, and my email is there.
Okay. If you just want to pop the email link email again just so because the chat, there's a lot of people in the chat, so it might have gotten lost.
I can't put them in there though, so that's why I was putting it on the
Oh,
stream.
oh yeah. Oh, I got you.
I go through the back way. We're
I
gonna make
see
it
you.
happen. Like I told Keilah earlier, I felt so bad. Oh my goodness, I mean, it was lightning everywhere. It was horrible. And
That's
I'm
so
trying to tell her
scary.
that we
Yeah.
got
I
this.
just
Like,
want you to
oh,
be safe, Keilah. Like
yeah.
I
Thank you so much for having faith in us,
I love
everybody.
you. I love you, Keilah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
very
I'm
much.
very lucky that I'm in um that I've met these people
You're so
in the
blessed.
chat.
And that's it, the connection. Because no
Did we
matter
get
if we
the
have
part
nobody
2
in our
for
lives,
Mary?
we have family, we have love, we have connection, we have our village.
We do. It looks like Mary was saying she had a part 1 out of 2, but I don't see the part 2. But I'm going to pull up the part 1 because I think.
I bet they are. And I
Where did
apologize if y'all can hear
Here it
my fur
is.
babe. He is getting very anxious. And so I'm going to, while you're looking for that, I'm going to step for just a second. I can't hear because I have to take my headphones off.
Yeah.
But I got to let him out because he's going to get really upset.
Oh,
So just
no
a second.
worries. Yeah, we'll pause for a second for
Okay.
the doggy.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Here you go.
Well, I just want to say too,
That's
I'm
why.
really,
Dad just come
really
home.
thankful that Keilah made this channel
Will you do me a
because
favor? 'Cause I'm-
I see some of the same names popping into our live streams that I've seen on other channels or seeing them talk about their stories. And I just want to say, like, I think it's incredibly brave that you guys come in the live chat and that you're willing to pop up a Me Too or insight based on your own experience because it can feel kind of isolating a little bit to experience these things because you almost think that you're the only one. And so I think it's a testament to Keilah making this channel that so many people feel safe to come on here and talk about their stories. Um, just gonna pull this up by Blake. Blake says the looking glass self always shows me the me I forget, and that person, even though he looks different each time, teaches me something new each time. That's why he loves Misha's handle. I think, Blake, you're so wise. But I kind of want to agree with you here because I think we keep a little bit of ourselves locked away to keep ourselves safe because we've all experienced so many different traumas or experiences that kind of make us want to doubt ourselves or not trust in the world. And I think if you're able to look at your reflection and know that you're not a different person, but you're the same person who's grown and you'll continue to grow into yourself, I think that's incredibly empowering for people.
Yeah.
That you can learn from yourself and then that you can also find that connection with others. Because I think that was the thing I mourned the most when I got out of an abusive relationship was the version of me before that relationship.
Yes.
And
Yep.
but that version of Indigo is still inside me, you know. So I'm really glad that I think a lot of us have similar thought patterns actually. I was going to say like how did we all get so wise, but it's because we went through these experiences that gave us the ability to have that wisdom. But it looks like Mary got her part
I'm
2,
so
so
sorry.
I'm going to go to part 1. You're good.
I was talking to you for quite a while and I was
Oh, I
muted and didn't
couldn't hear
realize
you.
it.
Oh, no.
And then as soon as I turn it back on, then he comes back in. It got a little chaotic. So that's
No
just my
worries.
life.
Well, I hope you agree with what I was thinking. I was like, I'm a good talker, so I'll just wait for you to come back.
You're incredible. Yeah. You handled it like a pro. I'm the one that's like, mess.
No, you're good. But I wanted to say that Mary was saying she's sorry you weren't able to get connection and closure with your birth mom, and that her older brother tried to find his birth mom, and similar, she didn't want that contact, and it's possible in some
Yes.
situations that she never told anyone about having you, so
And
it,
that is it. That
yeah,
really,
they
really
may
is
not be
because
able to contact you for that reason. If she never told anybody that you existed, it would be kind of a
right.
shock, you know?
Surprise, y'all. Get out the balloons. 50 years later, it's a
Right?
girl.
I'm your I'm your older sibling by like 20 years.
Right. Well, people would always tell me that I look like people. Like I had one lady chase me down in the parking lot one time. She says, Angie, Angie. And I'm looking at her like I'm thinking it's somebody behind me or something. I'm looking all around and she runs up to me. She's like, I can't believe you did that last night. And I'm like, I can't either. What did I do? And I didn't know about other issues in my life at that time. And so I was just like, what in the world? She says, you're not Angie, are you? And I said, nope. Apparently I'm glad I'm not. So score one there. But like,
Yeah.
Darlene off Roseanne, I was always told that I look like her. Everywhere I went, I was always told that. And so it just makes you wonder because you don't have anybody in your life that you look like. And then you have 3 children and none of them have your features at all. They do like internally. And so they thought like I did in a lot of ways. And they, there's similarities obviously, but just none that were visual that I could say, like I only looked into my own eyes whenever the Grand Princess was born, which is amazing. Oh my low. Everybody's like, where'd you get those eyes? And she'd like, my Mimi gave them to me. Just like, yep, she did
Isn't
that.
that interesting? And like, that's another thing about adoption that's difficult is you have to be prepared that the child that you're raising is going to think differently than you
Yes, completely
because
different. And
they're
they're
not
going to deal with
um
things that they don't even know how to explain because I consider whenever I was born, I consider that my very first loss because
oh my gosh.
9 months, the entire time that I existed on this realm, I was within the safety and the confines and the emotions and the memories and the thoughts and the music and everything and environment wise that my bio mom lived. And then all of a sudden I was yanked away from that, put into a sterile, cold environment, given some things that hurt real bad, and then whisked away in a chamber for 7 days because I was jaundiced. And then I go to this family that I've never met. And I'm just going to be honest, they were weird. We're all weird.
No, but
you
I
know,
know that feeling like I know my birth mom's story, but she didn't even hold me when I was born.
yeah,
And not because she didn't love me. Like I said,
she couldn't let go.
she was in my life as I guess it had to be an open adoption because her sister adopted me, right?
Right.
So it's not like we could go see all of her other siblings who lived in the same part of Michigan and just be like, "Oh, we don't see her." Because then it'd be like, "Oh, why aren't we seeing her?" Like
Right.
that's weird. So I always had a special connection with my birth mother. And when I was 11, I asked my mom, I was like, I know, Mom, that storks don't exist. So, like, who's my real mom?
Mm.
And she's like, you might want to sit down for this one.
It's so
But like
great that
I
they were
said,
open with
like,
you.
she
So great.
and my birth mom, too, like, when I turned 18 and went to college, we were writing back and forth for years before she
Wow.
passed and getting to know her things that she couldn't verbalize. A lot of the abuse she went through, she wasn't able to talk about it, but she was able to write about it.
Mm.
Um, Let me see, is there anything else in the comments?
And that's the thing. I think, I had, as far as surface goes, a fairy tale life. I never wanted for anything. I, was spoiled rotten. I had everything. And so I didn't understand what life could be like. Now that I do at 50, I've been through the ringer in my adulthood. I can see this. And so I never took that in consideration whenever I was younger. I just thought, I'm a princess. Why didn't she want me? Kind of thing. And that mentality. I think that instead of looking at what she was going through, I was just looking at myself and what I was going through. And I play devil's advocate with almost everybody in my life. People get angry at me because I don't try to just go against, because I think that a lot of us have this mentality that we look at people and it's so much easier to point fingers than it is to grab a hold and hug. And I think that that has to come from partially because of my whatever for looking for so long in the bad ways towards my bio mom. After speaking with my friends, like I said, that had actually went through the process too, they did not, there's not, like, if you look for resources for adoption, there is money there for the families that adopt, but there's not therapy, which I think should be a given. You should always, for the day they are born, there should be some type of therapy available for adoptees and adopted parents and the adopted mothers.
I
And there's
agree.
not.
Yeah. There's not. There's not
There's
that
nothing.
support. And I
Uh-uh.
think it's incredibly sad in a lot of ways. And I also think there should be like free support for foster
Yes.
parents as
See,
well.
when I'm saying adoptive, I just automatically include that in my thinking because to me, we were orphaned, and we needed others to care for us. Many times
Yeah.
in that place, there's so many different dynamics that you have to take into consideration that aren't, and it causes for more possibilities for abuse. It causes for more mental illness because the blame of myself as a parent because I couldn't do a good enough job to keep this child where that they needed to be would be horrible. I know what it's like with my own children. I can only imagine having a heart big enough to be able to let somebody come into your home and to welcome them and to want them to be your family and it not work out. And that could be helped so many ways because they could have the education
Something I
towards
wish
training, towards parenting.
that could be done system-wise is like if a
Yes.
child does well in a foster home, that if they get put back into their home, that like maybe for 6 months that room is left open for them. Because I think
Yes.
it's so destabilizing that like they find a foster home, they're doing well, and then they're put back in the environment. That room is given to a completely different kid, and now they're placed with a completely different foster parent.
Go through it all over
You
again.
know, if things don't work out, and it just makes you feel so lost.
Yeah. It's like when you get hurt on something on your body, you grow the scab, you heal over, but you're always going to have a scar. But then if you get hurt there again, then the scar is going to get thicker. And it's a shell, it's another thick skin that you're having to put on for protection safety. How can you trust? How can you trust that this is your home? How can you actually, when you have your own home, how can you expect it to be your home and to feel comfortable because it's never been? Blah, blah. I could go on and on. There is a link.
Yeah, right.
The second link that I sent you on the StreamYard is for a documentary that is called Removed. And I think
the second YouTube link?
Yes. I think everybody and anybody who ever has a little bit of spare time should watch that because it gives you such insight for being a removed child, for being rehomed.
Oh, hi, Crystal. Hi, DJ Nico. When I flip to start, I can't see the live chat. I just really wanted to say that I just wanted to pull up Carrie Ann's comment really quick that, they feel for you and
I love Janet.
That compartmentalization is a really good topic to bring into this because I think the thing that when I started doing research into like the socioeconomics of adoption, and no offense to anyone, but it's an industry where people pay to get a child.
Yeah.
And
I mean, my daddy knew that at the golf course, he knew a lawyer. The salesman knew a doctor because they were next door neighbors. And that is how they got me. It wasn't that they went through an adoption agency. It wasn't that they went through the hoops that you're supposed to jump through. It was my daddy knew a salesman who knew a doctor. College.
Oh my gosh, I just had to pull up this person because, I never got my letter, but like, why can't I go to college, Hogwarts? Just saying. But I just wanted to pull them up and say, thank you for coming to the live. You're more than welcome to pop in, even if Misha's not the guest. We love to welcome new people and, share people's experiences and stories. And we're glad you could make it tonight. And they're just saying, to Keilah, they hope they're staying safe with the storm. So
Yes.
I just wanted to pull that up really quick. And then
See, all you guys are family to me. And that, it really, truly, whenever people say family, blood is thicker than water, y'all,
do you
family is
know
so much
what the
different for
full
me.
quote is?
Mm-mm.
It's blood is thicker than the water of the womb.
Blood of the covenant.
Well, the blood of
Yeah.
the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning not all strong family ties have to be biological. Like you can have found family,
Yep.
and a lot of times that can be like a stronger support system.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Chosen, we choose. And that was weird because I was always told I was chosen. But there was a lot of weight to that. And
yeah,
so I kind of turned it around backwards though, because every single person that we allow in our life, we are choosing. And
exactly, yeah.
yeah, I couldn't be more grateful. And that's why the village, that's it right there is, with the last year, there's just Thanksgiving is the second scariest day for the world in America, anyways, because I just am getting used to the fact that we have different Thanksgiving days than everybody else.
Mhm.
Because stuck in my own viewpoint.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's a scary day, and so it would be really a helpful thing to have the 24-hour like a channel chain. That way, nobody ever has to be alone. They don't have to go through it alone. If they don't feel like being alone, they can pop on, and there's some channel that is within the village that there's somebody that they can talk to and hang out with.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to work on is to get that all put together. And then for, Christmas Eve, and just do kind of like fun games and stuff and just challenge each channel with something to keep
Yeah.
and foster the community and the village and not have to be alone. Nobody should ever have to feel what it feels like to be alone.
I agree. And then Nico says 2 years ago I couldn't celebrate me, but now heck yes, support systems are so important, and I've worked
Yes.
hard on raising my kids with boundaries and empathy, and I still mourn the woman I was, but I do celebrate who I am now.
Yes.
And that's it. Like, I don't necessarily like how most people use the phrase, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, because I feel like a lot of times they use that in a minimizing way.
Mm-hmm.
But I look back at some of the things I've been through that I thought I wouldn't get through. And I look at myself now that I've gotten through it and I think I did do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
And that should be
Mhm.
celebrated and acknowledged. It really, really should. I had a friend of mine that was, she said that sometimes because the way that I handle things, that people take it as a weakness because they don't think that I'm strong. But honestly, I've got everything that I need. I can be weak at times because we all are. We're all human. But sometimes strength comes in different ways. And sometimes strength just comes in being able to sit back and to listen and to not be so hasty and to look at every side.
Yes.
And I just
agree with
kind
that.
of, I've got to stop for a second because
Yeah.
it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It's okay. Take a minute. I'll just so Carrie Ann says my best friend recently learned her father was not her bio father. She's now looking to find her bio father. Both her parents have passed away, so she can't ask questions. That's really
That's a
tough.
tough one.
I will say that a lot of people are finding connections through I know. Are finding connections through like 23andMe or ancestry.com, because if even one of your relatives also use the same website, it'll give you that biological link.
Yep.
Now, obviously, no guarantee that the people will answer you for sure, but I think those are really good. And at least the initial giving of the DNA to link to family is free. I mean, if you want the
Mhm.
whole breakdown of your like genealogical history, you usually have to pay for that.
My daughter did that. It was very
But
interesting.
I mean, the
Very
kits
interesting.
cost money to get the kit, but once you send it in, they do the testing, and kind of what you paid for the kit goes to the testing facility.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
it
it was
does
really
bring
interesting
up a
to
lot of
see all that they do.
questions, and you know,
Well, and that was a point that I had for the longest time whenever it first came out. All these people are paying money to do their genealogies and to do their testing to find out their culture and who they are. Why is it such a thing if we aren't allowed to know ours? Whenever we had
yeah,
no chance, and so that was always a thing for me is just, why is it celebrated and then we're actually punished because the no support, the no anything, and then to ask about it, to question it. Well, how dare you? Because you were taken in. You could have been on the streets as a baby. You could have been out on the streets and you could have had nothing. But instead, we chose to bring you in and to give you a perfect life. How dare you question that? And that's
yeah,
not fair. And it's not like I said, and it sounds like I'm saying poor me, poor me. And I promise you, I do that. Not gonna lie. But I try to balance it out because through, like you were saying, I feel like a tempered sword. I feel like I am being thrown through the fire, thrown through the forge, and everything I go through does make me stronger. But dadgum, I'm exhausted. And that needs to be acknowledged. You know, if I stay in the yuck, then I'm going to never get any better. But I have to be
yeah,
able to focus and look at and analyze and understand where I'm coming from and say, Mish, it's okay. And
yes,
you suck right
for
now. That's
sure.
okay because we all suck. And if we have these feelings, if we have these questions and we have put them down for so long that we have denied who we were in our own rights, how can we expect to get any better? And so anybody else that's going through that, if you have never been able to validate yourself and to give yourself grace for asking questions that should be asked, you deserve to ask. You deserve to feel exhausted. You deserve to feel everything that you're feeling. It may not be right in certain ways. It may not be correct, but it's what you're feeling. You don't have to act on it, but you do need to look at it and give grace for it
Yeah,
because it's part of what makes you you. And then go look in the
exactly,
mirror and high five yourself and say, "We did it."
exactly.
You know?
I have to stop soon, but I just want to do some of these
Yeah, I do
comments
too.
first. So Kate says Christmas is hard with all the publicity they already started. Reminds me that I'm alone and don't have a family. It reminds me that I'm not part of the parade.
You're part of this parade, babe.
Yeah, you're part of this family. Um, I think that's a good point, though. The holidays can be extremely
Terrible.
difficult for a lot of people, whether like with my best friend, whether he had to go no contact with his family, and you feel like, do I throw my own Christmas or do I try to, do something with my friends? It can be hard for people who just lost somebody
Yeah.
because it's, the first of anything after
Yeah.
you lose someone is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're aware of this is the first time this person isn't here. But I would also say that again, where we were saying like family doesn't always have to be the people who are blood related to you.
That's right.
And I was seeing that Tiff said, I think she said last Thanksgiving or last Christmas, she did a 24-hour stream so that if people felt alone, they could
Yes.
like come into her stream and find community and
Yep.
people to be around. And I think it's very important for people to know they're not alone. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of physically or by distance to others, you could be like physically alone,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
But in
But
terms of like community that we're building here, I think it's very important to acknowledge that like we hope that we've given you a spot where you feel like safe and that you could come here and trust us with yourself and your stories. So,
which we realize the fact that you're never in a safe space online completely. But we all are trying to do something that lets you come to a safe place and we will protect you as best we can.
Yes.
and we want to
Yep.
be there for each other. We want to make it a safe place. And so
that's why
just
we
acknowledging
say,
that.
with mental health matters, the number one
Displace.
rule is if you're rude, you get the boot.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter, like, that could mean you're trying to derail the topic of conversation. It could be because you're actually a troll. But the reason that that's the case is because people come and talk about really, really hard things.
Hmm.
And it shows more about the trolls than it does about the people they're trolling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I just want us to commend everybody in this chat for holding spaces for some of these really difficult topics. You
Yeah.
know, because it is a lot to handle, and especially, you know, the men in our community who come forward and talk about their experiences. And if anybody gives you you know, crap about it, you know where to find me. I'll put them in their I'll put them in their place, you know, because everybody should have the ability to work through hard feelings.
Yeah.
And there was a part 2 really quick for carry on, and then we should probably end the stream. So she said this was the second part. So her cousins might be her half siblings.
Mm.
Because she said she didn't know who her bio dad was.
That's so much to process.
That's
It is
a lot
so
to
much with
process.
life is life be life, and life is going to be lifing. But then to add to it all these
Exactly.
other things, and it's like, you know,
And
the
all
world
that
keeps on spinning.
complication too of I think a message I would give to people is if you feel that somebody is trying to hide you or minimize you, it's not you.
That's right.
It's that person. It's something in their mind or experience where they might not even 100% know how much damage it's doing.
Hmm.
Even if the reason is I hid this baby because I had a violent boyfriend and I don't want him to know my baby.
Right.
But if that person grows into adulthood not knowing the reason, like you were saying, like it makes you feel like confused. And so I just want to say if anyone's going through like a period of confusion, just know that if somebody's mistreating you, it's nothing that you did to deserve that. Nobody deserves that.
Never let anyone dim your shine.
Exactly. I mean, if I ever figure out my tech issues, if I ever
Technology.
technology,
Technology,
but
they say.
I'm really into like astrology and stuff. So if I ever got monetization on my channel, but I probably won't because I don't believe in sugarcoating words when I'm talking about certain topics. But I thought like of calling like members stars because you need multiple stars to make a constellation. And it's
Yes.
kind of like you
Yes.
need multiple people to hold a village together, right?
That's right.
Um,
Well, that way, I know that we got to get off here, but I want to say just a little bit more about the village. The village is going to be, if somebody comes in that we know and they do something, it's going to be given space for the fact that we know how they've been and something is not right. So maybe we need to see what's going on, because sometimes we have issues. Sometimes we say it's a safe space, but then whenever we have an issue and we share it, then we can't share it because, you know, and so it's going to be like a voting thing. It's going to be, we are watching out for everybody. Nobody is any in particular. It's going to be religious all over the place. It's going to be beliefs all over the place. As long as it's not like PDFs, as long as it's not like things that obviously, I mean, come on. It's going to be a community and everybody runs it together. It's not going to be for profit. It's going to be everybody shares their stuff. And if it does, then we'll vote on where the money needs to go. We don't have to all do like 24-hour days with it. We just do one video a week. And then people can come in and decide, I like this person. Or if they're used to this, they might see something that they've never even heard of before and fall in love with it. And it's their jam. And so it's just it's a combination of everybody, every little spice, every different flavor. And we're coming together to make a giant soup for the village kind of thing.
Exactly. I just want to say really quickly, it was good to see Seventh in the chat. And I will say it's not that we expect the village to raise a child, it's that it takes a village to raise a child. Like, think about all the times I can remember my parents both working. I was 6, so the neighbor came over and took care of me, or somebody's husband died, so you brought them a casserole so they don't have
Yes.
to try to cook. It's those kinds of things we're saying, like that support that you
You
get
know,
from the people around you.
so much experience and knowledge have we gotten because of our experience. And if we took that for the rest of our lives and just use it on us, we were going to get so far. But if we take all of the experience and knowledge from each of us, because we all have so much to offer, every single one of us have so much to offer. And we want to elevate the voice of that. We want to elevate for everybody to be able to say their story, to share their story, and to share who they are. My God, can you imagine what it's going to be whenever we start learning how to do this?
Yes. Yep. And that's like, right, it's not going to take one person. Like some of us or all of us met because we were somehow affiliated with the cult, right? The Scientology stuff.
We all,
And,
I think we
you
met
know, it's
because of
like
trauma. I think a lot of it.
a lot
There
of
was
it
so
was
much
that we
trauma
met, but
around.
we met through those chats, right?
Yeah.
And we saw someone say something vulnerable and we're like, oh my gosh, I relate.
Yes.
Right? It's taking that shield down and saying, I might not be alone in my lived experience anymore.
Yeah.
Which is the message I want to say to people in the chat that are main, you know, like Keilah said earlier, she's like, I may have started this channel, but if there's no one in the chat and nobody to interview, the channel doesn't keep going.
That's right. And she also said if there's one person there, she's going to be there.
Exactly.
And she'll make sure. Yep.
Well,
and we're sorry that we were late. It was not.
We're sorry
it was
we're
totally
late.
not on
It was
purpose, but
totally me learning StreamYard for the first time.
we weren't going to give up either, y'all, because this channel and you guys and Keilah and everybody, y'all are so important. We didn't want to let y'all down. And
Yes.
thank you for being so patient with us, and thanks for listening to me cry baby a little bit.
Just cry. Just feel
cry.
your feelings, you
Yeah.
know? So I guess the hopeful message we'll leave you with today is there's always a star to wish on.
Yes.
There's always a person out there who's listening and who can catch you if you fall. Because
right.
if we don't help each other up, you know, there's not that feeling of community. So, you know, it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to not be okay. As long as you don't disappear with no prior warning and make me message you 10 times and,
Yeah,
you know, because I care and I'll be scared.
I ghost. But that's where like the emoji conversations, you just put an emoji in and check in. Hey, I'm here, but I don't feel like talking. You can get away with that for a little bit.
And also the Facebook group for anyone who's not there. I don't know if Ahmad's threw it up in the chat again, but we do have a Facebook group where we do peer support after these lives and throughout the week as well. So
you literally are never alone. There's always somebody. We all have different hours. We all have different things. And so you're not going to have to be alone. And we're just going to get better and better at that. More and more of us are not going to be, we're going to be able to be there for each other. So we're not alone no more.
Exactly.
By God.
Yes, we're not alone anymore. And on that note, guys, have a great rest of your week. And like we said, feel free to check in and we'll catch you on the next live.
Thank you so much for hanging.
Yep. Thank you to everybody who came tonight. Appreciate you all.